Today is Saturday, July 22nd. And today we are talking about the fastest growing sport in America. The Sports and Fitness Industry Association that tracks participation has given pickleball that title for 3 years in a row now. Although the game has actually been around for decades, its popularity really took off during the pandemic. Tens of millions of Americans have at least tried pickleball. Major networks like ESPN, CBS Sports, and the Tennis Channel are broadcasting pickleball tournaments. And some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment are investing in professional leagues. Later in the show, we'll talk about an uptick in certain injuries as the sport gets more popular and how to avoid them. But first, I'm chatting with someone who has a lot of influence on the game's future. Tom Webb is the Chief Marketing Officer for the Association of Pickleball Players, a group representing professional, amateur, and recreational athletes. Tom is giving us his take on why the sport became so popular so fast. He admits some of the challenges pickleball needs to overcome, and he starts us off with how this sport that combines tennis, badminton, and ping pong got its name, pickleball. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Tom, thank you so much for coming on the Newsworthy.
Thank you for having me. Delighted to be here.
So first I have to know, and we actually got this question from a listener as well, how did pickleball get its name? What's the origin story there?
So there's a couple of theories about how pickleball got its name. It's traced back to the very earliest roots of the game. So 1965 up in Washington State, a gentleman called Joel Pritchard and a couple of his friends invented the game of pickleball. There's one theory that Joel Pritchard had a dog called Pickles who used to run away with the ball when they were playing it. And that's kind of one way, that's one area that people think that the name came from. The other one is related to Joel Pritchard's wife, Joan, who started to call the game that they'd invented, because I'm going to quote here, the combination of different sports reminded me of the pickle boat in Crewe, where oarsmen were chosen from the leftovers of other boats. I actually don't know what that means, but whatever the origins of it, it's a great name for a sport that's taking over the USA and rapidly starting to expand internationally.
Yeah, I think some people have said you can't take it too seriously when it's called pickleball, and that's what makes it fun.
Possibly. I also have another theory on this, which is every sport, when you kind of dissect it, that all these names are kind of crazy. Like squash. Who thought a game called squash would be a great name for a game? Or even golf, going back hundreds of years. So I think one of the things that's happening with pickleball as it's really starting to take root across the country is the name is becoming less and less part of the discussion about what makes the sport so great.
So you mentioned that pickleball has actually been around since the 1960s, but again, the popularity has really exploded in recent years. So what do you think has changed? Why has it now been named the fastest growing sport in America for 3 years in a row?
So the Association of Pickleball Players conducted some research back in 2022, which told us that 36.5 million adult Americans had played pickleball at least once. And then we renewed that research earlier this year, 2023. And in March, we announced that 48.3 million Americans had played at least once. So 35% increase in just over 6 or 7 months. A massive, massive number. And it's a sport that seems to have been born in many ways in these large numbers out of COVID. Obviously, during COVID, a lot of people were looking for opportunities to stay fit and healthy. And what's better than being out on a court where you are socially distanced from other people and you can still play a sport that keeps you fit and healthy, and which at its root has kind of fun and community and social aspects to it. It is low impact when compared to tennis, and it's a sport that I describe as one that you can be quite good at quite quickly. And when they see the pros in competition, suddenly what they see is there's a real difference between being quite good and being really good. So it still has a kind of aspirational element to it, which is I would love to be able to do what they do at the very elite level of the game. But at its heart, it's about fun. It's about fun and joy, and it's about bringing a smile to people's faces when they're doing something which keeps them fit, keeps them healthy, allows them to be outside or inside in indoor facilities, and hanging out with their friends.
What about any global growth? What are you seeing there?
So the APP has recently formed partnerships with Pickleball England and Pickleball Sweden, and we're having conversations just like that with organisations all over the world. A sport that has taken root from its origins here in the United States is growing very quickly in Canada, in Mexico, throughout Central and South America, and now rapidly into Europe and worldwide. So we're having conversations with people in Australia and in China and in India.
So we've now seen some celebrities in sports and entertainment investing in professional pickleball teams. I mean, we're talking LeBron James, Tom Brady, Mark Cuban, Heidi Klum, Eva Longoria, the list goes on. What's happening with that, and what's your take on all this high-profile investment?
I'm not surprised that you've seen a number of celebrity names getting involved in the sport of pickleball. I think at the heart of it is they're seeing that this is a cultural phenomenon that is here to stay. One of the things that we see is that demand is outstripping supply in terms of access to courts. So you're seeing a very rapid rise and growth in the number of pickleball courts that are being created and coming online every single day. It's over 300 a month that new pickleball courts are being opened across America. And I think when you look at numbers like that, it's not surprising that people want to invest in it, not only for the financial rewards, but fundamentally for the fun.
And even as pickleball is broadcast on some of those major networks like ESPN, and with all of this positive momentum, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing the sport?
People who want to play are finding that courts are fully booked, and there are, as I say, a lot of courts coming on stream to be able to meet that demand. So I think that that's going to balance itself out, and as people want to play, they're going to find it easier and easier to find courts to play on. The other thing is finding who they can play against, and there are now apps coming online which are enabling people to do that pretty simply. I think that's some technology that's going to help with that. One of the big pieces is about ratings and about being able to understand how good you are compared to the people that you want to play with. The APP has partnered with Universal Tennis, the world's leading technology platform for ratings in tennis. And Universal Tennis have now launched Universal Tennis Ratings Pickleball. And I think what that is one of the technological pieces that will enable further growth of the sport. We all obviously spend an awful lot of time on cell phones and using technology. And I think that as the community of pickleball grows, being able to have standardized ratings worldwide means that people will be able to jump into games wherever they are, whenever they want to play, and know that they're playing players of similar abilities.
And I understand you've worked in multiple sports like soccer, rugby, F1 racing. So what made you interested in pickleball?
To be part of a sport like pickleball, which is, I believe, going to be an Olympic sport one day, and to be part of that journey that gets it to there, is a very, very rare and unique opportunity. From a personal perspective, to be able to help shape the future of a sport like this, which is growing rapidly worldwide, is an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
One final thought for our audience about pickleball.
Please try it. Crazy name, perhaps. That might be the first thing you're thinking, but if you haven't tried it, get out there and try it. I guarantee you, within 20 minutes, you'll be saying, I wish I'd played this before.
As pickleball's popularity has grown, so has the number of injuries associated with the sport, especially among older players. Up next, I'm joined by pickleball physical therapist, Dr. Sarah Leong-Lopes. She's the owner of Phase Physical Therapy and Wellness, where she specializes in helping pickleball players elevate their game and recover from injuries. She's also the host of the Pickleball Physio podcast. Dr. Leong-Lopes shares why she thinks so many people underestimate just how physically challenging pickleball can really be, and she tells us what everyone can do in just 5 minutes to avoid getting hurt in the first place, while still taking part in the fun competition of pickleball. But first, a quick break for our sponsors. Ever felt overwhelmed and even annoyed by all the conflicting health advice out there? Go on social media and it feels impossible to know who you can trust and which advice you should follow. And keep in mind, none of it is customized to your situation or your questions. Well, if you have a health issue, a question, or just need to get your annual checkup to make sure everything is looking good, ZocDoc can help you find top-rated doctors that actually have a medical degree and years of actual experience. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated, patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. And you can even filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for. I also appreciate those verified patient reviews. So go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. And thank you so much to our other sponsor, Miracle Made. Anyone else here loathe doing laundry? Or at least I don't like finally finishing all the laundry only to feel like I need to do it all over again. Well, I'm here to tell you about Miracle Made's bed sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent, get this, 99% of bacteria and require 3 times less laundry. How do they do it? Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics that prevent bacterial growth, which leaves them cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. And of course, I wouldn't be telling you about them if they weren't also really comfortable to sleep on. Go to trymiracle.com/newsworthy to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order now, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code newsworthy at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/newsworthy and use the code newsworthy to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/newsworthy to treat yourself. Okay, now to our conversation with pickleball physical therapist, Dr. Sarah Leong-Lopes. Dr. Sarah Leong-Lopes, thank you so much for coming on the Newsworthy.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica.
So we recently reported an uptick of certain types of injuries that was then linked to pickleball and its rise in popularity. So first, I'm just curious if that surprises you to hear. And then also, what are some of the most common injuries that you see with pickleball?
While the rate surprises me, it also doesn't surprise me at the same time because of pickleball being such an addictive sport. It's very easy to learn and pick up. You can learn the game in 20 minutes. And so then you're able to start playing right away. And then you play a couple of rallies and you realize it's actually very exciting. It kind of brings about a childlike wonder and it makes your body feel younger. So people will end up playing a lot too fast, too frequently. And that has been one of the reasons why we see such a huge increase in injuries. So some of the most common are either having to do with your heel or your Achilles tendon. Many people are familiar with Achilles tendonitis because of all the different changes and directional movement that you make in the sport. That Achilles tendon ends up getting overworked very, very quickly. And so that's one that we see commonly. Another is either shoulder tendonitis or elbow extensor tendonitis. And some people call that tennis elbow or pickleball elbow. And again, that's just repetitive motions, overuse, and overworking those tendons and muscles that haven't been getting that much action up until that point.
One of the recent reports was talking about even things like hip replacements. Have you seen that sort of thing?
Yes. Hip replacements and knee replacements are unfortunately not that uncommon. A lot of times because any individual who has either had a fall or maybe doesn't have the strongest hips or enough joint space, they end up getting a lot of friction into those zones between the bones, or though that space ends up getting interrupted. Many people will look to physical therapy before getting surgery to see if you strengthen the muscles, if that's enough to protect the body as opposed to going straight for the surgery.
So what can be done even before we get hurt to help prevent these types of injuries and still be able to play?
This is a question I wish everybody was asking and everybody was actually following through on. The most successful implementation strategy that I have seen people use to prevent injuries is just taking the time 5 minutes before you get to the court to go through a dynamic warm-up. Dynamic warm-up meaning you are getting your body moving in less intense intervals of the movements that you are going to be using on the court. So for example, if you are going side to side a lot on the court when we're up at the kitchen line, you want to be practicing doing some side steps before you get onto the court. Or if you recognize that you're going to be using your right arm, your right shoulder a lot, if you're right hand dominant when you play, then getting those muscles in those shoulder, in that arm to warm up with those specific motions before, expecting yourself to just jump out of the car and be able to do an overhead smash, for example.
And you think just 5 minutes beforehand is enough?
5 minutes beforehand is more than enough in a lot of cases. If you already have knowledge of maybe a certain area of your body that needs a little more attention, maybe you've had injuries in the past, or maybe you are currently dealing with any sort of chronic pain or acute pain, you may need to spend a little bit more time on that specific area. But by and large, you can probably get away with 5 minutes and stave off a lot of the risk for injuries.
What about after the game? Should you be doing anything before you go home?
Yes. So after the game, just like you did dynamic warm-ups to begin, do some cool down activities, cool down stretches. Just like we need to rev up the body to be able to play, we need to also allow the body to wind down after you've played your day of games. Make sure you also rehydrate because we tend to sweat a lot when we're playing this activity. And so make sure you get all of the nourishment that you need, whether it's just drinking water or refilling your body with nourishments with fruits and vegetables and proteins to kind of help the body repair itself and to support all of the healing that needs to happen naturally after we do any kind of activity.
Do you think people should be doing more conditioning even beyond just stretching?
Absolutely. Anybody that is wanting to play pickleball, whether recreationally or competitively, we need to be remembering that it is a sport. Therefore, we need to be treating our bodies as athletes do. And athletes aren't only playing the sport. They're doing a lot of resistance training or body weight training, stuff to kind of help their muscles get stronger, more stable, and work on that coordination and controlled motion when they're off the court, in addition to prepping for their actual gameplay and their skills.
Do you find that people just generally underestimate how taxing the game can be on their body, and that's why they're maybe not doing some of these things?
Absolutely. It's such an easy game to pick up and to learn. And so because it's so easy, everybody's like, oh, well, then how hard can it actually be on my body? So they absolutely underestimate how taxing it can be. And that's one of the reasons why we see so many people getting hurt.
There was a medical study that found between 2010 and 2019, nearly 90% of the pickleball players who went to the ER were over the age of 60. So what do you have to say to that age group specifically? What should they be keeping in mind when they play?
Get to know what your body's baseline level is at. If you know you haven't been doing a lot of activity lately that imitates or replicates some of the movements that you see on a pickleball court, take it easy as you ramp into it. Maybe go get checked out with a movement specialist to see what your baseline strength and coordination and power and endurance levels are to make sure that you are safe to play or whatever is your safe dosage of playing pickleball as you're getting started.
Yeah, because even though we hear about the uptick of injuries and the risks, potential risks of playing the game, there's also a balance because it does seem that there's potential benefits of the physical activity, especially for older adults, the social aspect and, just having fun. So how do you try to balance those two?
What I will often tell people is, if you have some friends and you're not trying to get super serious in this sport, then please go out and play once or twice a week, maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time. Since the games are so short, it's easy to get multiple games during that time. And you're not going to be overtaxing yourself with this sport, with this activity, and you'll still be getting all of the benefits out of it.
When you're teaching your patients how to elevate their pickleball performance, what are some of your top tips?
Some of my top tips really have to do with looking at how they move. The individuals who spend a little bit more time building their lateral stability, so moving side to side, or being able to build their stability going back, so being able to step backwards, those are some of the components that I offer a lot of my patients or my clients to start elevating their game.
Well, thank you so much to both of our guests today. For more tips about how to improve your pickleball game and avoid injuries while you're at it, you can download Dr. Leong-Lopes' app called Phase. And to learn more about the Association of Pickleball Players and give the game a try, check out their website or live events on YouTube. You can find all those links in our episode notes. And if you know someone who plays pickleball or seems interested to give it a try, share this episode with them. These special edition interviews come out every Saturday, and we had a fun time talking about this one. But our main show gives you fast, fair, fun news roundups every weekday, so stay informed with just 10 minutes a day. We'll be back on Monday with the news you need to know. Until then, have a great weekend.